This is Internet Marketing.
Hello, my name's Kelvin Newman and welcome to the Internet Marketing Podcast. So what have we got lined up for you in today's episode? Well, we're going to be talking about how to build authority online with two great guests. We've got Bianca Anderson and Andy Crestodina. So buckle up, great episode ahead. Hello and welcome to today's episode. I'm always excited when we gather two guests together to have a chat about a topic that they've got some expertise in and that I find really interesting. But I always love when we get a bit of serendipity. So we were kind of like, as we were like turning this on, we discovered that Andy and Bianca are actually relatively quite close together in Chicago, which is always lovely to hear. But yeah, I'll let you kind of introduce yourself and tell the story. We can kind of like, we can learn about each other as we kind of have this conversation. So Bianca, is it all right to come to you first? Tell us a bit about yourself, how you came to be working in digital and marketing and kind of what you're working on and the journey to here today, I suppose.
Yes. So my journey started here in Chicago. My first digital marketing gig was at the planetarium, the Adler Planetarium. I got that gig because I was a huge space nerd, still am. And it was an amazing opportunity. I got to bump elbows with astronomers and got my first taste of writing for a blog, and my first taste of SEO for said blog and link building and whatnot. Really amazing opportunity. 2020 happens, huge layoff. 2/3 of the entire organization was laid off, and I was a part of that. Blessing in disguise, I got to get some agency experience because of that. Shortly after the layoffs, I worked at a digital agency for a year and a half as an SEO, and got to work with a wide, diverse range of clients. One minute I'm writing about dumb waiters, the next, and that for those who don't know, it's elevators, but for like inanimate objects. It's not. Yeah, I was gonna make a joke there, but. The 1 minute I'm writing about dumb waiters, the next I'm writing about AI gun detection. So I really got to experience a nice breadth of content and content strategy. While I was working there through the lovely platform that is LinkedIn, I got reached out to by the current head of SEO, I want to say, Asia Frost at HubSpot. And the tagline or the message was, "Hey, do you want to work at HubSpot?" And I was like, I think I do. That sounds really fun. So I got to work at HubSpot for 2.5 years and learned so much. It's such a beast over there. Worked solely on the EN blog. Got to head a lot of the strategy there for a good portion of my time there. And I just learned so much about just the amazing smart processes that they had over there. And during that time, I got to help out or spearhead the creation of an EAT playbook that really changed the way we started to approach content creation. So yeah, worked there for 2.5 years. And this past February, I started a new gig at Hims and Hers, where I'm currently a manager of organic growth. Loving it so far. Everyone's really scrappy. It's in a time of great transient change and growth. And it's just, I'm having a blast. So that's my story. And in terms of how I met you, Kelvin, I'm going to be a speaker at the brightonSEO San Diego talk.
Very excited about that. And yeah, that kind of like authority and stuff is certainly, I think, a topic we're going to touch upon today to some extent as well. And Andy, how about yourself? What's your journey for people who don't know you so far?
Quit the day job in December 99, joined a friend, started building websites in January of 2000. April 2001, formed this company. We're basically a digital agency focused on web sites and optimization. Knew right away I had to figure out search and analytics. This was search a bit prior to Google becoming the dominant player. And this was analytics prior to Google Analytics being a thing. I did analytics back in the old days on other tools. And did well that way, grew through organic channels. 2007, started publishing and writing and became kind of a content marketer, content strategist when all these things converged. Social, search, email, influencers, blogging. And today we are a 50-person, $8 million in revenue shop that has never bought an ad. This is one of many examples, grown completely through content. And I'm involved in lots of formats. I mean, there's a book and videos, and I speak at a lot of events. But probably if anyone has heard of me, it would be maybe through just my biweekly blog on my site or the weekly LinkedIn newsletter. And glad to be here, Kelvin. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, no. I'm really fascinated to kind of, to hear your both collective experiences in terms of, I suppose, that content-driven side of marketing, but also kind of the building authority, because it feels like that's always been important, but so it doesn't feel like it's going away. And some of the updates at Google seem to be kind of pointing in that direction. Bianca, you talked about the kind of that process at HubSpot of, building, like, I suppose, a kind of approach to building authority. Can you tell us a bit about that and kind of like the general sort of like approach that you've got to, EAT and, that kind of that process of building authority online?
Yeah, so with HubSpot, it's an interesting case because no surprise, their domain authority is insane. And in past times, I think it was really easy to rank for terms based off of that alone. It also helped that the content has always been really good quality. When I was there was the March core update of 2023, and it really started to change things up. We started to notice that what we once were ranking quite easily in, we were starting to struggle, and so did a lot of deep dives and analyses on that, and determined that one of the things that could be shifted was our approach to content creation. So that's how the idea of even creating an EAT playbook was birthed. And so with HubSpot, the domain authority was there, but something that we really wanted to focus on was building like topical authority. And so there's a lot of different facets involved there, especially with such an established website like HubSpot. One of the things was really starting to get pretty hyper vigilant about the topics that we covered, making sure that they laddered up to areas that we genuinely could provide expertise in. The EAT playbook itself really did focus on that laddering up to those topics and starting to really look into how we could empower our writers into becoming expertise in areas. So like appointing certain writers to certain topics and having them be the leads there, and having them consistently write that content so that it sends signals that they are truly well versed in it. And so I think that with the EAT playbook, it was trying to take something that was already good and just make the way in which it was operating a little bit more in line with EAT. It was tough at first for me because when I was reading the official documentation from Google, sometimes I thought that some of the recommendations were not super actionable, like seeing the checklist that search quality raters use, like does this content appear like it was written by an expert? To me, that could look like a lot of different things. So what helped me was just literally taking those items, putting it in a Google Sheet, and then we at HubSpot, we loved fun names. So like HubSpotifying the checklist so that it could be more actionable. So with the that item of like, is this content written by an expert? One of the actionable things I started to pull from that was this term called productive perspectives. So having our writers feel empowered to inject their own opinions, their own professional anecdotes into particular topics to showcase that they are experts in what they're writing about. So it was a really fun way to kind of reverse engineer what Google was saying in their official documentation and making it more actionable or applicable to what we were doing at HubSpot. So
that's really interesting. Yeah, because it's that challenge of like a lot of the things you would think of, or certainly like historically makes it sound like it was a long time ago. That's maybe not the right way of putting it. In fairly recent history, a lot of the kind of things that you would think, here's what you need to be a successful content marketing business. HubSpot nailed all of them, right? That you kind of go that's like renowned for that to an extent as well. And that actually it's interesting that even these changes that have been made can have impacts on people who like you would think are really well placed. I know, Andy, trust and quality is sort of like an area that's of interest, something you've talked about before. Have you found that kind of matching into this? Is it something it has been a change? Is there things that you've had to approach differently to your content marketing strategy in the shifting landscapes that we've seen over the last few years?
Well, I totally identify with everything Bianca just said, and it reminds me of a conversation I had once with Amanda Todorovich, who runs the content program for Cleveland Clinic. She's got like 80. It's like a similar. It's different vertical, but similar kind of scale. Huge, big player. But what she told me that kind of surprised me was she doesn't have a team for video and a team for blogging and a team for social. She has a team for cardiology and a team for dermatology. And so she builds deep expertise in these areas, and those teams can do whatever they want, whatever they can to drive. I thought that was fascinating, right? To organize your content and I'm basically a team of one or one and a half here. There's only a few of us. But what you just said is interesting to me, because if your goal is quality, should be all of our goals, and you want deep expertise by your creators and promoters, definitely, a huge component of success. Don't structure them based on channel or format. Structure them based on expertise. So anyway, that just connected with me. Thank you for that. My approach toward quality, and I'm basically like in one specific vertical, so not as broad as HubSpot or Cleveland Clinic certainly, but publishing original research, focusing on fewer URLs. I have like a soundbite from one presentation that says you don't need 1,000 articles, you need 100 great articles. Again, this is a different scale, but for the smaller business, there's only, we're smaller business. But I have over many years updated many articles many times. I have URLs that I've written and rewritten on that piece 3 and 4 times over 12 years, adding video, adding detail, adding original research, like building these things up. So one thing that I've had a perspective into is just declining click-through rates, watching one page maintain a number 1 or number 2 ranking over 10 years. But tracking click-through rates, you see what's really happening in search. I also have this bizarre hobby of collecting screenshots of search results pages. I have like 10 plus years of screenshots of search results pages showing changes in SERP features over time. So I'm excited to come to Brighton and teach, and come to San Diego, Brighton SEO in San Diego, and show some of these things and teach a practical approach, including using AI to focus on quality, use AI to find gaps in the things you could have included in that article but didn't. Improve click-through rates, give AI a bunch of data about your title tags and their performance in search, and have it recommend changes. But also the big picture, like what does SGE mean? What do changes in SERP features mean? So I just threw out a bunch of big topics.
Yeah, well, no, I think I said that, that AO one was inevitably on the list, right? Isn't it? It's kind of one of these things that, like, it's never been easier to produce content, but that also, surely that changes the dynamic quite. How have you found that, Bianca? Is it kind of one that's like, it's keeping you awake at night in terms of for the future of kind of content creation, or is it like, actually, how are you seeing it in your kind of interpretation of it?
I think that the whole trends that we're seeing with Reddit and Quora, like forums like that, like starting to get historic levels of organic visibility, I think it's lending to maybe, like, I think it's like Google's perhaps way to curtail or try to get content that they know has been written by people in the eyes of their searchers. In terms of how I view that, I don't think it's an existential threat to SEO. I think it's just going to change the dynamics a little bit. The bar for good content is a lot lower, but I think that's why in this new landscape, or this emerging landscape, relying on really good copywriting and really good editorial and really good copywriters is so important, because I think we're a long ways away before an AI tool can create a piece of content the way an exceptional writer could create one. So I think really leaning into that particular piece is going to be really important, or is already really important. But also, Andy, I wanted to say I loved that you flagged Cleveland Clinic's kind of like pod structure or approach to content. That's one of the things that really attracted me to this role at Hims and Hers, because that was why they were hiring for new SEOs, because they're creating this new pod structure. So we have like a Hims hair pod, which is the one I'm the manager of, and we have like the Hims sex pod that we have another manager of, Hers weight loss. And already, like, as an SEO, this is the most, I've said I've worked at HubSpot, I've worked at an agency, so I'm used to dealing with like a large breadth of topics and content, and to be in one particular vertical and get to hone in on that, I just feel like I feel like I can be incredibly efficient. And so I think that is such a, like, when I was interviewing for them and thinking about the strategy, it's such a
I love it.
And I think that is the way.
Sure. Just, you're never going to miss an internal linking opportunity. You're going to reference your other stuff. You're going to get to know the influencers and continue those relationships. It makes tons of sense to organize a team based on subject matter instead of channel or format. I love that. Good for you, Bianca. I can see why that'd be interesting.
Yeah, and I think, I suppose also it like then leads into this, like the content in a broader sense than, search marketing. I'm from an SEO background, right? I always end up seeing things through a kind of like an SEO lens. But the reality is that's just one like route to this content that you're producing. And I think, like, probably from what I understand about you both, like, yeah, you're going to be producing it for more reasons than that. And I suppose that like content topic led structure perhaps lends itself to then that your content could do well on, like social, on, other means of doing that as well. Is that, have you seen that emerge, Bianca, in terms of that kind of like, it allows you to be a little bit more channel agnostic or kind of like,
Yes.
open-minded?
Another thing that's been really attractive or exciting about working at Hims and Hers is because it is a pod structure. There's a dedicated person for video, for social and whatnot, and getting to work closely with them. I've already started to share like SEO recommendations for videos on their YouTube channel regarding hair loss. It's been so interesting to just see how having that pod structure allows you to kind of break down silos within the pod when it comes to different channels. So I think it's the way to go.
Mm-hmm. And Andy, I've got a question for you about kind of dealing with the newness, right? So it certainly feels like in terms of producing content, trying to demonstrate authority and, appeal to your customers in these various different ways. There's sort of like, there's always going to be something new, right? Is that something that kind of, how do you balance that kind of, need to be innovating and doing new things in spaces versus, well, actually, as you say, maybe the historic updating the content that's been there before maybe is the way to do it. How do you balance that one up?
Well, what doesn't change is that our audiences all have information needs, and that they're in any moment, any of us using the internet, however, have different types of intent. Those things don't change. What I think I am bracing myself for a change where the user behavior will change is if you have an information intent and want a quick answer, the current way to like take a phone out of your pocket, open a browser, go to Google, scan through search results, click on a website, and then dismiss a pop-up and accept cookies and block notifications. I'm on record saying the current mobile experience of the web is pretty bad, and that it's ripe for change. And it's very likely that if you have an information intent kind of need in the moment, you're going to pick out an app and just get an answer, and you're not going to be retrieving information. It'll be generated for you because these AI apps will just give you the answer. Probably in hindsight, nobody really should have monetized that visitor. In hindsight, we'll look back and say the internet was a mess in this era. And I think it's very likely that a big percentage of information intent queries will move to prompts. And instead of retrieving information will be generated for us. So we should all begin to look at our targeted key phrases and ask, does that phrase have visit website intent? If not, that there's risk there, and that some of that behavior may change. Now, that doesn't mean it's the end of content discovery. And by the way, I've got a GA4 exploration that shows where I'm getting traffic from AI. I get visits all the time from perplexity.ai and copy.ai. So even if the channel changes, this is not not panicking at all, because I know that there's still an opportunity for people to satisfy their audience's information needs and to rank, because you use search when you have commercial intent, to rank for commercial intent phrases and to convert that visitor into a lead. Through all this disruption in SERP features and declining click-through rates, my business has still grown. So it's the thing I'm watching is, what are the changes in user behavior, and will there be a shift from search from querying to prompting? And if so, how does that change content discovery? How do we train the AI? The big question for 2025, how do you train the AI to mention your brand and your content? And I'm going to be positing some examples and ideas at Brighton. Oh, come on.
What we love to hear. No, I genuinely, this is really exciting, because it is that, like, it's very easy, I think, sometimes to kind of see these changes as like a danger, as a risk, as disruptive. But actually, I think, kind of as you frame that, Andy, about kind of like, actually, if you think about the model that we've got, just because that's like the habit, that's what's formed. Is that the right way of doing it? And actually, you can't be buying your hair loss product from the AI, right? It's like that's right. Still going to be that purchase that's occurring there.
I predict low disruption for commercial intent queries. It's far less disruptive because those people still need to consider options. They're clicking they have visit website intent. So in that scenario, I think it's the information intent stuff that my traffic over 15 years, I got a chart. It goes like this. It comes up and goes down, but not the service pages. Those are consistent over time. I'm excited for all these topics.
Yeah, I completely agree with Andy. And I think, it's best case scenario. And I think some of this is just going to have to be expectation, like managing expectations with stakeholders, saying, top of the traffic KPIs or whatever are going to go down. But as long as the conversions are there, this is still good stuff. And so, yeah, even at Hims and Hers, as I've taken on the Hims hair property, my focus has been first tackling that middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel content, just because I know there's a lot of speculation still on whether or not SGE is going to be officially rolled out this year. So if that does happen, there is that anticipation that those informational queries are going to have a notable dip in traffic. And so I think by trying to build up our library of middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel content, it'll help curtail the more important business driving KPIs. But yeah, I truly do think the thing that's going to get a hit is the informational stuff, which
and that's really a really practical one, I think, in terms of people to take away, isn't it? Which is the kind of when you're thinking about the keywords you're targeting, you're thinking about where your content sits in that journey. Yeah, it's sometimes seductive, isn't it, to kind of go after the higher volume, the higher impact, sort of the ones that you can kind of demonstrate and show, this is important, right? Whereas actually, if you're kind of going, well, no, it's that stuff that's the longer tail, the further along the journey, that's the stuff that's going to be harder to do. I think, that's a really good practical takeaway there. And I mean, I think this is a really interesting topic, and I've really enjoyed chatting about it. I always ask our guests in terms of whether there's a particular resource or piece of content in the broadest possible sense of the word that they might recommend that people should go and check out. It could be a report, could be a book, could be a video. Bianca, can I come to you first in terms of one that you'd recommend or suggest there?
Yeah. So I love, so in terms of resources, I often default to two people, Lily Ray and Barry Schwartz. I think that they have some really insightful commentary about what's going on. They always have a pulse check on algo updates. Lily Ray has some of the most interesting deep dives on algo updates I've seen. She does a lot of the research herself. So I recommend just following them on LinkedIn and keeping an eye on what they post. Barry Schwartz also on SEO Roundtable has that's an amazing resource.
Hugely prolific as well, the pair of them. I'm quite impressed by how they find the energy for all the stuff that they put out there, which is obviously hugely impressive on that side of things. Andy, how about yourself? Who would you recommend, or what would you recommend maybe?
Sure, yeah. Big Picture AI, there's a Twitter account. It's a Wharton professor named Ethan Mollick, Mollick. My friend Paul Reitzer, who founded the Marketing AI Institute, I asked him, how do you keep up with things? He said, follow Ethan and then click the bell. You want notifications whenever he posts, because a big percentage of those things are actually very insightful. It's not just search. It's not even just marketing. But to see what's happening with AI, he shares a lot of scholarly articles. That's an excellent way to stay on top of things.
That's a good recommendation. We'll make sure we drop those in the show notes as well for people who are listening or the people who are watching it on YouTube and that kind of thing as well. Andy, if people want to keep in touch with you specifically, follow your work, what's the best way for them to do that?
LinkedIn is by far my better network. So find me on LinkedIn, Andy Crestodina with a C. I'm also quite active on YouTube these days. Again, trying to differentiate my content from AI, hitting the record button more than I used to. So the YouTube channel is at Orbit Media Studios.
Fantastic. I'll definitely check those two out. And I know that Andy does a really good job of producing that. So definitely check that stuff out. And Bianca, how about yourself?
Same best way as LinkedIn, Bianca Anderson. I'm trying, I keep saying I'm trying, but I have a Twitter account or an X account that I want to be more active on. It's called Binks Does SEO. But I'm not very active on it. So LinkedIn is the best.
It's really interesting. I mean, obviously, we've just had our most recent conference in the UK, and it's strange for us because we began as a hashtag. So the joke sort of was we were hashtag before we even had a website, and that's sort of how the event. So I very much think of maybe some of the events that preceded us as sort of blog conferences. I think of us as the Twitter conference, right? And it was the kind of the hashtag was as much part of it, and now a lot less conversation going on Twitter than there ever was on LinkedIn, going mad, which is obviously interesting to see, and again, kind of an interesting dynamic and observation to do. But yeah, thanks so much both for joining us. Thanks everyone for listening and watching. Huge fans of both our guests. Really enjoyed speaking to them. Definitely continue to check out the great stuff that they've got planned, and we'll see you all soon on a future episode. Thanks very much. Thanks Bianca. Thanks Andy.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thanks so much for joining us for today's episode of the Internet Marketing Podcast, produced by the team behind Brighton SEO, the world's largest specialist digital marketing conference covering SEO, PPC, paid social, web analytics and content marketing. If you want to find out more about us and the show, you can check out the website, internetmarketingpodcast.org. And if you've not already subscribed to the show, you should hit that subscribe button. And can I ask a favour, if you are subscribed and you're enjoying the show, can you leave us a review wherever you're watching or listening to the show? And if you want to get in touch, become a guest on the show, or just generally feedback about what we're doing, you can always email me. That's kelvin@brightonseo.com. So KELVIN@brightonseo.com. Or of course, you can contact me on social media. So at LinkedIn or Twitter, my usernames are Kelvin Newman. See you soon.